Yesterday, some of you may have detected my impatience, so I decided to give a little background to explain why in 3 minutes or less. It's kind of light here, but I'll talk. I've been a professor in the art department working in media arts since '92 at UC Santa Barbara. And I've been always a geek. I got the very first version of Mosaic. I got the art department plugged in. And when I got tenure, I also started an online hybrid PhD program that my professor, Rowan Ascott, who was an artist influenced by cybernetics and art, actually mentored me. And he's made huge leaps in thinking about how to do a hybrid program with media and arts. So my thesis was dealing with network public spaces and looking at visualization in relation to our physical body, our embodiment, and geographic spaces as well. I was studying Buckminster Fuller. Because I was at UC Santa Barbara, I was lucky to be artist in residence at the Buckminster Fuller Archive. And I read this book that influenced me greatly in thinking about how education could work. This is published in 1962, and it's still quite relevant. And just a quick note, this is a published book that I did with essays with 16 artists who work with large sets of data, called Database Aesthetics. Out of the 16 artists, 12 are from the UC system. I've been part of the UC Digital Arts Research Network that was active since '95 until about 2 years ago, where all of us working in the media arts, including Greg, who's out the door, really kind of get together and start thinking about issues that actually a lot of us are discussing here. And I've noticed on my BlackBerry, I'm getting already emails from the community site. I think I got 15 already, so I'm starting to delete them, so we should think about that. So here's my first attempt to create a hybrid class. I'm going to give you 3 examples. I've been working at this since I started teaching. This is my first lesson. I was treating myself as a guinea pig and my students as well. And so this class was a studio class dealing with synchronous, asynchronous time and starting to really understand when is it critical to be there physically and when is it not. And in the studio class, you would think it's always critical. Well, actually, sometimes not. What we had to deal with, however, and the reason the class was called Time Travel, is because we had also 3 time zones. We had Australia and LA and Switzerland. So we had 3 different time zones, 3 different professors with different ideas, but students who were working together in 2001. So you can just imagine the technical challenges we had to deal with. Here's a poster that was being designed by the students trying to figure out how to deal with different time zones. So this is a time zone matrix that we were trying to figure out when the students can actually overlap to do a performance or a cafe or look at each other's work. And on some level, it was really a disaster. And on some level, it was the greatest experience. So I think we all learned by leaps just by plunging in and making the mistakes. And also the technology wasn't quite ready. This is recent. I don't know how many of you use time and date. I use it all the time because I have a PhD student in China who works with me in UCLA, but I'm also visiting professor in New York, and I'm artist in residence in Marseille. So not only do I have a huge carbon trail, but I have to do this online. And it's something that I think about a lot in relation to designing these courses, specifically time zones. So to give you context now, 5 years ago, no, actually 7 years ago now, I formed the Art Science Center that deals with north-south divisions, art science, humanity science divisions. And what you see here is 2 locations. So our center has a location in the California Nanosystems Institute, but also in the art school. And so what we do is we bring artists to science and scientists to artists. And that's what my course deals with, which is the second lesson I learned with small seminars. I actually found out that students perform much better when asked to blog rather than to write papers. Because there was a kind of informal atmosphere, and the blog is something that they're used to as a kind of a writing space. But we had to give them parameters as far as spell checking first, how many words, links, etc. So it wasn't just go and blog and do whatever you want. And I've found that a lot of students communicated much better with me over email, especially the really shy ones. The third one, which is the course I want to develop with this group, is the Art, Science, and Technology Introduction course, which is a lecture course. And you would think that it's not necessary at all for me to be present. I actually find that that's not true. I think that it can be online most of the time, but I absolutely have to be there for the opening of the class, for the just before midterm or after midterm to comment on what was going on, and for the finals. I also find that showing up on Skype is important in class to show live Skype, and then the recorded stuff can go on. So I'm discovering that it's a real choreography that's very specific to each one of us. So nobody really can give you an answer. It's specific to your space and your lecture. So a lot of problems with space have been solved by me having this kind of hybrid class. And especially since I've been in 2 places, I put myself in a situation where I was teaching this class at Parsons in New York and in UCLA at the same time. So I put myself in an absolutely impossible position. I've suffered some, both physically and mentally, but it definitely came to a point where the second time I taught it was so much easier because I made those leaps and bounds. One of the things that was brought up in the last talk was translation. I'm talking about in a different context because I see more and more students in all institutions that are from different countries in larger and larger numbers, and I'm sure you agree with me. And many students, I can tell, can really think in a complex ways and can really respond to what I'm saying, but not in language. And I feel like there's no way that they can learn the complexity of language in such a quick time. So I'm actually interested to explore the idea of translation, and I looked at TED as a really good model and started asking students that if they want to, they can go ahead and have their blog in their language, but it's their responsibility to translate. So in a way, they're also learning, because translation, as a lot of you know, is the best way to learn a language. This is actually from TED, where you see how all of these talks are actually translated by volunteers. And I think the same thing can happen with students. I think it's a really interesting approach to consider. This is a Korean student who got so excited about my allowing their language to be part of it that he started thinking, well, what about if it's not only language? What if we also want to show how culturally we talk to each other and what's proper and what's not? And I think it's also interesting to look at. At Parsons, I thought I would bring it up because I'm sure you guys are going to look at this here, but Blackboard is what everybody uses there. They're really stuck with it. I would actually recommend against it because once they got into the deal with the whole corporate model, they can't get out. It's really easy to use. So everything is using the old school models just translated online, but it's totally non-dynamic, completely closed, has a kind of a feeling that one size fits all. So it's just something that I used and decided it's really not the tool I would recommend. Moodle is actually very similar it's an open source model, but not as flexible, but similar. This is a UCLA film school that some of you may be familiar with. It's a proprietary online class that they teach in the summer, and it's very successful, but it's proprietary. And so it's very difficult for someone like me to come in and say, well, I want to do it too, but I'm a media artist, I want to change things around. Also, it's specific to the film schools. So one thing to really be careful in the planning is to come up with something that's proprietary or specific to a discipline. So even though this is a very good model in the interface design, it's actually quite one of the best I've seen. Because it's a closed system, it's problematic. What you're seeing here is a TA that's kind of goes on Skype at a certain time of day. So curricular suggestions in general is to incorporate social networking and to create modular designs. We already talked about it, but also to really think about multilingual systems, Spanish and Chinese, Mandarin in particular for California. And then to really focus on developing video live streams. I've been always doing it. So when we were in richer times, nobody really cared, but guess what now? The 500 videos that I recorded suddenly are being called back because people don't have money to get people from Europe or wherever to come in and give talks. Also, I'm interested in developing mobile systems that can be easily moved from lecture calls in classrooms. And so I've developed streaming mobile cards that are super easy and I highly recommend, and tested it in different formats. So it's super simple, easy, and I tried it in different ways, from formal to informal, dialogues, conference panels, and seeing how it connects faculty in this kind of dynamic system. So this is the prototype that we put together that's super simple and inexpensive. And the departments can put literally on wheels and take from this room to another room and stream live and archive at the same time. So to create these short, to be able to respond to short notice awkward spaces is really basically my point. But what does it require? You need the faculty to oversee the programming. You need the graduate students to be in charge of the videotaping and archiving, and the student volunteers who would be connected to the class, so they would actually want to do it. And then port it out to iPads and iPhones, definitely. So here's the diagram that I came up with, how I see online learning. So the core class would be what students pay for, sign up for, and it's actually closed. It's private. You can't get in. But then there's collaborators, which would be, for instance, in this context, the rest of the UC students. So if you're teaching a class on biology and water, you would look through all the different students who are doing a similar class. Whether it's the same time or not, it's irrelevant because the stuff would be online. And then researchers in the UC system who deal with that particular research. And then extend out to public, which would be the general web stuff. So this model is what I'm working on right now. It's the social arts-science network discourse. And it's basically, these are the points where I have different students or faculty who I collaborate with. We're creating a kind of a social network, but also sharing resources. And this is the interface online, which I can show you if I had a minute, but if I don't, so you can just kind of look at it. The reason I bring it up is because social networking, you said, was really popular yesterday. I did not want to use Facebook because I predicted and anticipated, it was kind of obvious that it's going to get sold, it's going to get more and more ads, and before you know it, I'll be stuck on a commercial system that's going to be overwhelming what we're trying to do. So I found an open source version, but the problem with it is that it's actually programming. The programming of it is pretty intensive. So a group like this could actually decide to use a similar type of social networking that's an open source Facebook that would be a template that different people can use. I think that would be a really great thing to develop. I'm almost finished. So what we're doing right now is we're creating groups with different countries and different languages. And I'll show you 3 minutes. Do I have 3 minutes?
Not really. But
can I take it? It's fun. There is a 3 minutes, please. No. Oh, yes, it go. The reason I want to show this is because it took a week and it was $500. And we need sound. Oh, there's no sound. Yep. So these are different students working in different locations who I recorded when they were on Skype. I recorded them while they were talking. So it was not high production, but it worked. It's perfectly fine. And it actually could be used for anything. So I recorded some lectures that way too. Let's see if it's going to. There we go. Okay. And now what? I teach, one of the classes I teach is nanotech, biotech, and art. And so that's usually the question I get. Are we on or should I?
生物科學同藝術有咩關係啊？
Нано-биотехнологии и искусство. Ну какая между ними связь?
实际上，你明白吗？究竟细胞技术和生物技术这些学科和艺术有什么关系呢？
നാനോടെക്കും ബയോടെക്കും ആർട്ടെക്കും എന്നാ സംബന്ധം?
That's all Skype. So it's really fine.
Sanatın nanoteknolojiyle ve biyoteknolojiyle ne gibi bir ilişkisi var?
¿Qué tiene que ver nanobiotecnología con arte?
Kakve veze ima nanotehnologija i biotehnologija sa umetnošću?
Nanobiotech e art?
Ma che cosa c'entra l'arte con la nanotecnologia?
This is just to give you an idea. I had to do a short video for a competition we were in, and one of the things that I believe in is to start with high school students. So what we do is we have a Young Leonardo program. It's actually going on right now at the California Nanosystems Institute, and it's in pairs. Students who are artists and scientists and graduate students teach high school students. They're actually learning. So I take my curriculum, give it to the grad students, and then the students that you saw translate it to their language and teach it to their peers. Whether it's a UC or outside becomes irrelevant, but what I'm really feeling passionate about is how do you train the next generation of professors who are not being hired anymore? Where are they going to get their money? How are they going to live? And then how do you train the next generation of young students, of youth, who are going to save the planet, basically? The way they're going to do it is by getting out of the old model of thinking. So part of the idea of new ways of thinking around education and incorporating online is to make it more accessible, less expensive, and more open to different cultures. Thank you.
take time for a couple questions. Microphone somewhere.
Victoria, thanks. That was really interesting. I'd love to see all that experience. That's really neat to see. Just a quick question. You said
all online.
You said that for in the middle part, you said it was important for you to be there at certain times. And I believe it. I was just curious if you could expand on that a little bit. Why did you feel like you had to be there at certain times? What did you do during those times?
Well, here's an example. Us meeting right here, we're all working on online projects. And yes, we have to get together and meet physically. In fact, Don Kwan said, well, you know, you can do a webinar. And I said, well, I could do a webinar anytime, but actually being here with people, the chemistry, there's something about connecting, and there's a certain time span. And working with online and kind of physical connection, I think it lasts, this kind of physical human connection lasts about 3 months. And it's almost like a battery that slowly starts dissipating. So after this meeting, it's going to be very active. People are going to be online. And then it's going to lessen until we meet again. So the physical meetings are something mysterious, but they need to happen. And it doesn't necessarily have to be me, by the way. And if it's China, I try to organize Juliet, who's doing the Chinese part, to meet with the students physically every 2-3 months. That's critical, at critical points as well, not just any time. So you don't want to show up when they're in the middle of preparing and they kind of don't really need you there. It's more a time when they need to ask you questions, to feel encouraged, to have a sense that you're present. And I mentioned it very in passing, it actually makes a difference to show up live online. I've discovered it really does. Not exactly sure why, but it helps that battery power a little bit.
Merci, Victoria. C'était bien intéressant.
Oui.
It's really great to see some global perspectives coming in here as well. I actually want to ask you about assessment. Just thinking about the constraints of the project, we're working in institutions that require assessment. How do you respond to that, particularly in these kind of dispersed courses? And how is assessment handled in other countries? Or
I think, well, if I stay within the UC system, and this particular class I've taught for 5 years, and I've actually taught it partially online just by default, by need, because there's so much to be covered that I didn't feel I could do. So I think the assessment doesn't really change. Maybe the media of the assessment and just like delivering the course, delivering the assessment, what I do find to be a big issue that absolutely needs to be addressed is how much time and energy it takes to do this. I had to do it because I was physically in a situation where I was teaching in 2 places, and I just simply had to. So it forced me. But in that process, I realized it's so much work. It's an incredible amount to demand from faculty. So it's important to give faculty time off and good support systems while they're preparing this. Actually, that's, to me, a bigger issue than the assessment. I think the assessment doesn't change. And when you look at numbers of hours and what they have to complete, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think it changes so much on, maybe for different courses, but I think for this kind of work where it's art and theory and science, there's certain pragmatic points that they just have to cover. Whether they do it online or offline is almost irrelevant. All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
We have to move on. You're welcome.
Okay. So next up, one of the topics that's pervasive across the social sciences and biological and physical sciences and humanities is statistics. And our next presenter is going to tell us everything we should have learned in our statistics class, but now we'll have the opportunity to learn online. Dinov.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Dinov. It's been a pleasure to see many of the approaches and techniques and tools that have been presented here over the past couple of days. Today, what I'll try to do is describe some of our plans to implement a UC-wide online statistics instruction program, which is essentially an introductory statistics course. And I think Doc Wynn is actually passing out a little one-page handout that we prepared, which outlines some of our goals and challenges and technology that we are attempting to use. So this is a joint initiative between the main UCLA campus, the UCLA Extension, as well as the Irvine and the Riverside campuses. And in summary, what I would like to show is number one, resources, number two, techniques, and number three, challenges. So first of all, what are the goals of the OSI, the Online Statistics Instruction Program? We are trying to expand access, lower barriers to content consumption. We are also trying to reduce costs, obviously, and at the same time, blend technology, information and communication technology to improve instruction. In terms of the components of what we plan to use, here's a little carousel that we put together. And what I'd like to start off with, perhaps with our ebook, just like everybody else, we have developed an ebook. The basic difference between some of the other ones and what we have developed here is essentially the fact that this is not our book or anybody else's book. It's a, just one second, let me close some of these tabs because my tabs are going out of. This is a collaborative book that the community is essentially developing. We're just hosting it. And it has, again, it's CC BY licensed. All of the materials, data, resources, and tools that are referenced can be refactored and used in any other way by anybody. So just to give you maybe one brief example, I'll try not to bother you too much with the statistical aspects, but let me just take a random section here from this ebook just to give you a flavor of how this thing is organized. It's not a PDF book. It is a wiki-based HTML5 kind of textbook. So students are essentially first presented with some of the techniques and the methods of what is being trying to be demonstrated by this concept, in this case, association or relations in bivariate cases. And they're given some data sets that they can work out, as you can see up here, some data sets that they can actually work out by hand, and some data sets that they actually do need technology to process. So here is one of those. Let me just open it in an extra tab. So this is all of our data sets. We have a very large archive of data sets. As you know, statistics is the science of information and data. We have a large collection of data sets, and what we do with it is we're trying to demonstrate the use of various techniques that are appropriate for the specific types of data. So this is a technology integrated tool, and what I can do is just maximize this window a little bit. I can go to one of our many types of applets and analyses that we have online. And remember, this was a section that demonstrates linear regression, essentially linear modeling. So I can select the type of tool that I want to use. And the very same data that I grabbed from over here with my mouse, I did a Control-C a second ago, I can go ahead and I'll plug it in here, select where I want the data to go, paste it in, and then I need to say, well, what am I doing with this data now? So suppose I want to predict the height or the weight of an individual knowing their height. So you're seeing somebody at a distance, you can approximate their height, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to estimate the association between height and weight in this case. So, let me know, unfortunately the screen resolution is kind of low. If you go to the top of this little window, you can see that height and weight are indeed highly correlated. And here is your R square of 0.3. The correlation coefficient is about 0.6 and so. And students, you know, typically elementary students may need to know precision is not as important. For others, precision is very, very important. And they have controls over these things. But what's more important is that at the end of the analysis, they actually have some kind of a graphical input that they can interactively manipulate. They can set up headings for some of these results, and they can embed them in their assignments just before they submit them. So in this case, here is the actual regression line with the slope of 30%, was it, or so. And then we compute whatever is appropriate for these types of analysis, in this case, prediction intervals, residuals, is there any patterns in the residuals, and so forth. And at the very end, of course, we want to know how good the model is, so we look at, in this case, the quantile normal probability plot to find out that the residuals are actually pretty good. So this is just one example with the ebook. The ebook has all the tools and techniques that we are trying to do. And again, here is a link to the applets. We have a very large collection of applets. Maybe I'll just show you a couple of these. We have developed over 300 different applets. And here is one example. In most of the situations in statistics, what one is interested in is several different types of data. One type of data that I would like to bring in my classes is definitely research-derived observational data. This appeals to many students, and that's one way that you can actually recruit SRPs or students of any rank. They love to see real data that came out of a lab, but other data types include simulated data, and here is one example. Now, without going into the details, again, in probability and statistics, we've actually achieved something that we can call the grand unifying theory, which physicists are still looking for. In statistics, we actually have that, and it's called central limit theorem. So this is the second fundamental law of probability, and there is a first fundamental law that's called the law of large numbers. So both of these have misconceptions and misuses, and I just want to show you how. So in this little applet, if I take one little step at a time, I can actually see the progression of this. In this case, a coin flipped, and I control the likelihood of a coin. Is it more biased towards head or tails, or is it a fair coin? And then what I can do at the end is I can actually see in practice the action of the law of large numbers, which tells me that whatever this red line converges, it better be whatever the probability value of the true coin that we set up and we simulate from. So if I change the likelihood of the coin, this line would have a different approximation. And then the green line in this specific case illustrates another very important concept, the fact that if you have coins that you flip multiple times, or the same coin you repeatedly toss, the number of heads and tails that you get at the end do not have to equal. In fact, the number of heads minus tails is a divergent series, which oftentimes people just don't understand. The ratio of heads to tails, of course, has a limit, and this limit is known. However, as the green line here shows interactively, that's not the case for the raw heads and tails. And here is some simulated data. Just like I did before, I can actually copy-paste this data and put it in one of the other graphing tools and actually process it further. So simulated data versus observed data, we play lots of tricks like this for students to kind of get them to think about the concepts that we're trying to demonstrate in terms of specific biomedical or engineering challenges and so forth. We have a number of activities. If I click on this link, so a very large number of activities. Each of these is going to serve as a specific module for us. So here is, for instance, the central limit theorem, which is a key component of any introductory statistics course. Again, it starts with a motivation. It has some references to applets. Each of these things is obviously a clickable image that you can get a high resolution version of, just like in any other wiki book. And at the end, most of these actually end up with some applications that show the use of all of these resources. In addition to that, all of these tools are automatically translated into 24 different languages using Babelfish and Google Translation. So there is no limits in terms of the usability, the open usability of these across different languages. So moving forward, here is one example of a course that used these tools. This is a course that I taught over the winter term, and it has 6 basic components. Obviously, an outline, some kind of a syllabus of the course, links to data sets that are appropriate for this course, links to assignments, as well as solutions to assignments and so forth, as well as notes. And the notes pages obviously have a little bit of a disclaimer here, and they essentially point to the ebook. And the final 2 things are, again, the links to the statistics online computational resources that we have developed to support the infrastructure in terms of simulations, data analysis, graphing tools, exploratory and quantitative data analysis, and so forth. And here is a virtual forum. Now, the virtual forum is an important thing because it essentially, for most students, is the portal. That's where they go to get weekly schedules and so forth. And here, these forums are very extensive. Obviously, there is multiple hundreds of postings, obviously asynchronous. And they have following up by students mostly. The TAs and myself act as moderators. Occasionally, we have to correct somebody's response. But most of the time, students magically find or come up to the right answer by themselves. And right up here are also links to both audio podcasts as well as video podcasts of all the lectures, which are, again, synchronously delivered, but they are archived by the UCLA, in this case, the Brewingcast, which is part of the online instruction development team. So all of our things are open access. There is no limits, including people that are enrolled in a class or people that are not enrolled in a class. Everybody can see these things at any one time. And here is perhaps another example that shows how we interactively manipulate data. This is something that we refer to as the Sockler modeler. And what it allows us to do is to simulate data or just plug in your own data. So I'm going to just click on various places, and I'm essentially trying to simulate some kind of a histogram. So the heights of these blocks represent frequencies, obviously, of various values that are on the horizontal axis, vertical axis frequencies, horizontal axis values. And now suppose I'm trying to fit some kind of a model for this data, because obviously we want to do model analysis and use models instead of finite data collectives. And what I would like to do now with this is I would like to do some estimation. And in this case, because I obviously fit in some kind of a bivariate model, I probably need to pick some kind of a mixture model. And then the software actually goes ahead, fits in a model for us. Let me scale it up a little bit. Fits in a model. And now obviously this model is not too good. Well, some people can consider it good. Of course, you can go to the results section and actually see that this model in this case is not too bad. The p-value that answers the question of how good the model is versus the data distribution cannot reject this specific model. However, if I were to, in this case, the parameter estimation is very tricky. So here is a slightly better model that I can actually look at each of the, in this case, these are Gaussian models, right? I have 2 normal distributions. I can find the weight of each of these distributions, their corresponding parameters, if there are any parameters, and then I can find the intersection points and some kind of a quantitatively analyze how good the models are. So since I'm out of time, I'll stop here and I'll be happy to address questions.
I have one quick question for you first. Carnegie Mellon has an open source statistics program that also has built into it lots of formative assessment. Is there any kind of things like that embedded within your system?
We do not have the formative assessment yet. We haven't found the perfect solution yet. They do. Carnegie Mellon has, not only for statistics, for a number of courses, they have developed pretty good materials. The difference there is that they have pretty static content. In our case, everything is dynamic. Every day we have an army of students that are developing new applets, new tools, new data sets are being retrieved from neuroimaging, from genomics, that are constantly put online. These are very dynamic courses that we're developing. In fact, you know, they change throughout the course, not only from one quarter to the next. But yeah, that's a good point. They have a good system.
I have a question. Is this on? I noticed that this is a cross-collaboration course, and specifically I noticed Jessica Utz from, is it Davis?
Yeah, Irvine.
Okay. I saw a presentation about 3 years ago where she was using, I think it's some of the same material. Are you guys using the same system?
I'm not sure what you saw.
Okay.
Could have been.
I mean, is she sharing the system with you?
Yes, we're developing this together. This specific course we're developing together with Jessica Utz and some other collaborators. Yeah.
Okay, and then also she did some studies a few years back, actually starting in 2001, and so I'm wondering if you guys are still doing that research on your own students.
Absolutely. We have done a number of studies to validate whether or not these tools really change anything. Is instruction improved? Because remember, one of our goals is actually to find out if this blended instruction does improve learning. And, you know, I need to be honest with you, the improvement is marginal. The improvement is marginal, however, it's incredibly consistent. So we've done studies where, you know, the improvement in the treatment group, which is the sections that have been treated with some of these resources versus the traditional instruction methods, the improvements are between 1.5 and 3%. So very minor, but it's incredibly robust. You know, the p-value is 10 to the minus 8 that the two groups are actually distinct. So, and it's very consistent in terms that we can see this slight gradient, very slight gradient, but consistent across topics, across assignments, across exams, and so forth.
And
some of these are, actually all of these are peer-reviewed. They're listed here, so if you just go to the soccer page and click on the references, you can find some of these studies. They're quasi-experimental studies where we have controlled treatment type of situations. Yeah.
When I saw her presentation, none of the students were randomized. It was self-selection.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if there would be a possibility that you'd be willing to do some randomization.
Yeah, we plan for this class, for the online statistics instruction, we will be randomizing students.
Okay.
In the past, it has been a little bit difficult to randomize because of administrative issues.
You said that student performance was slightly but consistently better. What would you, how would you assess the advantage of the online approach?
Well,
in addition to the student performance, how, from an instructor point of view, has it benefited?
From the instructor's perspective, we have reached, one of the reasons why we're in this game is that we have reached a point where our classes are now between 150 and 300 students, and they have essentially morphed into something that there is no absolutely personal contact between individuals and students, and we just don't have resources even to teach those courses. So it's just, you know, need-driven development. But in addition to that, by providing a dual synchronous, asynchronous model, I know for a fact that many of the students that attend the physical lectures do follow up and either download the podcasts and listen to them for refreshing or just for reviewing, or actually watch the videos online.
Is it less work for you?
I don't think you can say it's less work for me. Well, unless I had to teach 10 sections of 30 students, yeah, then it's less work for me. But if I'm teaching a class of 300 versus a class of 30 or 50 students, The online would probably require more work. Yeah.
So from watching the presentation, I could see you're making use of a wiki for the ebook. Looked like maybe some forum software for people to answer questions. But a large percentage of it is at least discipline specific and maybe developed by you or your team. So I wondered, are there other general purpose tools that you're making use of other than wiki and forum software? And you know, if so, how well or poorly are they serving you? Right? You know,
we're not. That's a good question. We're not developing content management systems. However, we are developing HTML5 based a large number of tools and services. That, I mean, the applications that I'm showing are specific to statistics, but however, we have a number of math applications developed, a number of computer science graph navigation examples, and so forth that we have also developed that are hardly statistics specific. So again, content management, we're just utilizing whatever is out there, but we are developing using Java technologies, JavaScript, HTML5, whatever we need to do to actually go ahead and provide something that's of use. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ivan.
Sounds good.
The question of randomization in classes that are online, that is one that may come up in a course if you're providing it online and on ground, the same term, or in a way it can be done. We urge you to talk with John Yun and his group. They have suggestions and will help you to find the best way that might be able to do that. As you know, one of the challenges that we have is convincing our faculty colleagues that we can do a good job in an online environment comparable to the on-the-ground environment. So any way that we can provide comparisons, whether it's through learning objective achievement or it might be side-by-side courses and how people do on the content, the better we can do that, the better we'll be able to convince people that this is something that should go on. It's probably not the ideal thing we think we should have to do, but it is a hurdle that we have to jump over because of the way the Senate has looked at a variety of these things.
All right, you should be ready to go.
Our next speaker is going to bring us to more current event topics on war and terrorism. So Jim Carey from Davis.
I'm going to change this just a bit. Okay, here we go. So I'm actually not talking about terrorism and war in detail. This is more of a survey of, it's actually a talk that I gave at Davis, updated talk I gave at Davis a few weeks ago. Pardon? I'm just going to do one quick thing. So
okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
And, okay. Just hang on. There we go. Now that's it. Where's the button? Right over here, right over here. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, no problem. So I gave this a couple weeks ago just as an overview. It was in the faculty mentoring program at Davis, and I call it electronic teaching. And so I've learned a lot here, and I've incorporated some of the ideas I've learned here at this workshop today. And I thought, actually, what did I do with my notes? Ah. Right here. Okay, thanks. And I thought one, and also note that I'm capturing my own seminar here, and I've gotten, I have the policy now of capturing all of mine where I can, and I can post this on the website, and so anyway, this is how it's done. And anyway, I thought the first thing I do is just give you some sense here, and then I'll get into the main talk here, but it's what I call an economy model for, we need a business model here in the end. There is a budget we all have, not just for this, but I mean for this online concept to work. And I thought I'd throw this out because I gave a course, not the one I'm going to be developing online here for this, this program, but one last fall where I had 200 students, and I didn't hire TAs this time. I just did piecework. And I have many essays. They're graded, they're 25 words only. They're very difficult to write, actually, and they're given check plus minus. And so I did a piecework with the graduate students. They can do 50 per hour at $10, $12 an hour, so it costs out to about $250. Then the term papers, you can do about 4 an hour, give or take, about $500, and then we have a graduate student office hours at $1,000. So about $1,000, I offered this course, 200 students with a writing credit. So just for perspective here. Now, so I've organized what I'm going to present here is, first off, I'm going to have some comments and then some background. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the UC Seminar Network just very briefly. The main part of my talk here is this video instructional delivery models. And if I get time, I'm going to show this how to record research seminars, 3 minutes. Okay. So just comments. First, my impression here is that, you know, we can go high-end. Some of these may want to go high-end on the video, but it seems to me that there has to be some sort of cost control. And I even start with this capture back here. I talked to Ben, and apparently it's $700-800 for getting this recorded. And there's just there's a handful of people online, and I just wonder if the streaming is worth that $7,000 or $8,000 for that, because right here, using the same mechanism, the content would be captured. It's actually pretty high quality content for free. But also we can make our own videos as well. And I think that we all have to become fluent in the video in order to do this. Secondly, I wanted to mention publications. I think that we could publish out of here. There's many video concepts that are going to emerge from this. And the video articles, there's a new journal, maybe you've heard of them, Journal of Visualized Experiments, where you can be publishing on this. And I suspect that there's a lot of things that come out of this that we could be publishing. Secondly, we could publish journal papers. There's unique aspects of statistics, math, literature, dance, all these things that could go, how do you create an online course for this? And we should be publishing on that. Thirdly, we could have a workshop proceedings here. I guess I'm talking to Dan here, but something come out of this. And fourthly, we could have a concept paper. I'm going to show one that when I chaired the University Committee on Research Policy, that's how this UC Seminar Network emerged. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention legal issues, the intellectual property and the disabilities, American Disabilities Act and so forth. We haven't touched on those yet. But, you know, the vet school they always have the designated jail person. Anyway, so maybe we have to, yeah. Okay, I won't go there. The video online, the way I see this, I'm talking more generally about video now, I see the tech-savvy world is there, everyday world is there, academia is generally way behind, and then I even see UC behind academic in general. And there's something about video that I think academics think as frivolous or something, but there's a power there we all know, and we've got to begin to exploit that. I see the standard digital tools, we all know Word, Excel, PowerPoint, EndNotes, and I could see Camtasia, for example, this video capture and editing as becoming just one of the tools that we have in our toolbox, so to speak, to use tool in everyday teaching. Now, the UC Research Seminar Network that was just launched here a couple weeks ago, when I chaired this University Committee on Research Policy, one of the objectives we had as a committee was to create synergy across the system. We have 10 silos, is the way I see it, 10 campuses, and how do you create greater integration and synergy? And one of the ideas was to be able to view seminars any place in the system. And so that all 10 campuses are represented, just for perspective. There's a first paper published from UC Academic Senate Committee. I couldn't believe that, really, but anyway, that's it. Most of these go in as sort of the file and, you know, as a report. But there's a lot of really, you know, powerful information that emerges from these committees and reports that could be published as well. It turned out that it was the first paper published with all 10 UC campuses represented. Why is this important in general in this context? Because publishing vets and affirms the idea. The outcome was this UC TV. It gave it credibility. And so I could push forward with this myself and the committee. Now, here's a part of the motivation here was, you know, we all have our weekly seminar series or whatnot. When you go into the speaker logistics, this nominate, solicit title, you know, and so on and on. And then you say, could you capture the seminar? Oh, no, this is way too much hassle, you know. And you think of video cameras like this one back there as that capture the seminar. But what about this right here? It's free. It's almost turnkey, as you saw when I just captured it here. Now, for example, we had a public lecture by this physicist here, just fantastic lecture. There were 400 in Davis. Davis, by the way, is the second most educated city in the country. But anyway, I mean, it was just a huge wall-to-wall people at this thing for public seminar. And anyway, they captured this, and this is, so the estimated cost overall was $10,000. That's my estimate. And here is the capture. Okay? Okay, go. Why is this not going? Ah. Oh, there's no sound. Oh, I see. Okay, hang on. Where's my sound?
End to end all of them.
See?
Because
okay.
momentum is conserved, this polygon
That
closes.
is low
So I have
end.
a
That is
closed
low
polygon
end. They put a
this
video
funny
camera in
space.
front of the podium.
This is a funny space. It's not our space-time. It's some other space-time on which I chose to draw this picture. The units in
Okay,
this
that's not what you
space-time-
do. Okay. The same thing for free. You could do, this is our seminar in our series, but you capture with Camtasia here. And so that you have a picture in a picture, that's good content right here. This is a graduate student introducing the speaker. And you can shrink that down so it doesn't cover up content and so forth. But I mean, it's high quality, and you care about the content, not about the speaker, high def and so forth, okay? So anyway, UCTV, you can go to that, UCTV seminars now, and all of you go out and go forth and spread the word, you know, to have these uploaded and capture your seminars in your departments and upload them here. And by the way, I mean, this would, in this context right here, we use this material in our online courses. You can, you know, grab clips from the seminars. Now, electronic teaching, this is the main part of my talk. It's a survey of video delivery methods. So I'm just going to march through what I call, it's about a dozen different models. And so the first one I just call click-through. It's basically traffic school, right? And so anyway, you have a probability, you have a definition of that, you'd have a problem, and then the solution. Okay, that's low end, but that's where we start. Next, the cost, very low. I like Arnold's idea of just, you know, single dollar signs, triple and so forth. Okay, audio lessons, that might be just a step up. Costs, oh, I'm sorry. And so that, you know, okay, French lesson, you have a voiceover with an earphone and they march through these. We don't have to go into that. Very low cost, okay? Model 3, classroom capture. We saw some great capture here. This is sort of the old, the last generation capture. Gee whiz, I got to click this one. And
So
that's
today
where
we're going to spend a little bit of time
they
on
just
some
have
elementary
the
chemistry.
camera in the back of the room, and it doesn't have the content as a picture-in-picture or as a side picture. This is really good quality where they are now. But anyway, that would be classroom capture. Basically, put a camera in front of the podium, project the speaker and the content. Okay, and that would be, I don't know, medium cost, say. Model 4 is what I call studio lecture. And this would be where you, they have these commercial great lectures, you know, the scholars that you get a DVD and they're lecturing about Greek philosophy and that sort of thing. And that's what I call a studio lecture. And I think this is not a bad model. So there was, I don't have any sound here, but anyway, so there's, the first one was in literature, this one's on art. And they can zoom in on these pictures, that Burns, that Arnold talked about, method. And then here's with fractals, and so that you have someone there speaking into the camera, and then great visuals here, a good use of visuals. I'll skip that now. So the cost there, it's ramping up just a bit, higher cost. Next one, this is what we use. This is actually out of my course. We beamed in Naval Postgraduate School professors down there, so there's the classroom. And let's see, what do I, yeah, there we go. Okay, there I am in the left, instructor. There's a video camera that's, you know, pointed out towards the auditorium with the students, and then you can see what the person on the other end sees. That is in that picture in the picture down there at the bottom. And here's what it is. The sound isn't so good here. But to be honest with you, it was a good model. I was surprised. This guy had a big presence here, and you know, it's just larger than life there. And with a good camera, he can say, the guy in the green shirt, what's your question? So it was that high def where he could look out. And you know, we really felt connected. I was really impressed, okay? And so that would be medium cost, okay? By the way, we did the same thing with this person I'm going to show you next. This guy right here, Parag Khanna. And this is a TED. He gave a talk in TED, but he gave a talk in our course as well, but he Skyped in from New York City. And it was unbelievable. I used this webcam right here, pointed it out, and he could hear questions clear in the back of the auditorium. Unbelievable. But it was zero cost.
Have a look at this map.
So this would be what I call a distinguished speaker. It's more of a TED lecture. We've all seen this, but it's really highly developed, high-end, but great content and so forth, okay? So that's, you're ramping up just a bit there too, okay? Next one, I'll show what I call a technical how-to. This would be Journal of Visualized Experiments. And so this is technical, so that scientists, they now have scientific journals where you publish, basically it's methods paper right now, but it's a video article. And these are really high-end. They cost $3,000 for them to do it, but this is some of the, you know, especially the scientific. There's a colleague of mine right there who studies sleep in Drosophila. It wasn't Rutgers. But anyway, so there's one. Then we have, so that's medium cost. Here's another one we did. I've been into this and creating, making my own videos. I ran an undergrad and graduate seminar on how to collect insects. Creating these videos. And it's sort of like bake a cake model. You need the, you know, the ingredients up front, then the demo, and then the where to get further information. And so that would be another use of what we call Model 7B. And so then we have our playlist and so forth. You know, so all these can be organized in short clips. By the way, just look at that, 9 minutes. Any high school student in the country can know how to make an insect collection from one of the top departments in the country, which is we're a really highly rated department. In 9 minutes, they know how to do an insect collection, okay? And then the last one I have, term paper, I just did this. This is a mock-up, basically, but it's, I have an undergraduate developmental award for teaching to develop a series. I propose to make a series on how to write a term paper. And so here is, I don't know why this sound isn't working here, but anyway.
Journal article title, the journal, the volume, and the page numbers. There are many types of references, the most common of which include the journal, the book, the edited book, a book section or chapter.
Okay, you get the idea. You look, I did these. It took maybe 2 or 3 hours is all. You know, it's not to do what Arnold did. A huge investment. I was really impressed with that, but it takes a huge amount of time. You don't have to make them all like that. You make them just good enough, and that's where we're going with these. Okay, so that would be low cost. Okay, field trip. There we go. You go out in the field. You could Skype in. This is, I just pulled this off the web, but I'm trained as an ecologist, so I sort of key in on some of this stuff, but you know, you can have field lab out there as well. It could be live or it could be a methods or technical paper like this. I'll just move on, okay? Interview, I did this for my course, that you capture them off the web, and then this is Philip Bobbitt, really, maybe some of you in political science know him, a really famous guy.
What I had in
but
mind
then I
was
collapsed the question down and put that so I don't have the interviewer, you know, spending 5 minutes asking the question. And then I bring in some of the main points right in here. These are called call-outs, okay? Low cost. Video message board, whoops, sorry. Just a couple more minutes here. And I think that's, so this is what I call a video message board. We went into theater, I went into theater, you know, and you have this like Starbucks and then Ace Hardware and so forth. They rotate. You can do this. I posted this at the beginning of my class as students are coming in, just like with a theater. You could have announcements like, you know, midterm next Thursday and term papers due the following week, that sort of thing, okay? Okay, so then we have what I call a video enhanced reading. So I do aging and longevity. Here's a author. So as you bring an author's paper into the course, you could, you know, bring the author into your classroom. This is Michael Gervin at UCSB. There he is right here. And, you know, talking about the very paper that I might have covered in the course. And so there's that, low cost. Khan Academy, I'll skip through that. We all know that one. Supplies, by the way, for Khan Academy, $250. There's the details right there. Once you have the investment, it's zero cost after that. And then the virtual tour. I just grabbed this off the web this morning. And I just, that is just sitting back here at the table. And so you can put in these call outs, and then I have, you know, just with Camtasia, you can say, oh, let's focus on this, and you bring in, note the multiple entrances or whatnot. And so all these you can do with virtually zero cost, okay? So there's a click through, And that's all I have of that. If we had 3 minutes, I'd play this, but if we don't,
Why
we'll
don't you
just...
go ahead? We'll
Okay.
start
Okay.
with questions.
See if we have sound here. Okay, why did the sound work before and it doesn't work now?
How to video
Okay, here we
capture
go,
a
here we go.
research seminar. The technical requirements include the screen capture and video editing software Camtasia, a high-quality webcam with audio capabilities such as the Microsoft LifeCam 3.5, and a laptop onto which Camtasia is loaded and to which the webcam is connected. This technology is used to capture the audio as well as 2 video streams, including first, a video of the slide content from the screen capture, and second, the image of the seminar speaker from the webcam capture as a picture-in-picture. The setup for seminar recording is shown here. The laptop is facing the speaker who controls the PowerPoint presentation using a wireless remote. The webcam is positioned on the top edge of the laptop screen. Because once the recording begins, the webcam field is fixed, you need to estimate what I call the wander zone of the speaker so he remains in the picture throughout his talk. After activating Camtasia, you begin recording in several steps. Step 1. Click the red button in the upper left labeled Record the Screen. The panel shown here will then appear. Check on this panel to make sure that all settings are correct for Select Area and Record Inputs, and that the webcam field appears. Step 2. Place your cursor over the image shown in the webcam and adjust the webcam to the speaker's height and estimated wander zone. Step 3. Click the red button Record, activate the slideshow on PowerPoint, and present the seminar. Step 4. Press F10 at the end of the seminar to stop the recording. A file will be created that may take several minutes to process before the prompt appears for saving this raw file. When it does, click the Save and Edit button and save the named file. Here are 5 tips to make your seminar video capture look professional and that can be done in less than 10 minutes. First, trim the pre-seminar audio and video. Second, insert a clean cover slide from a template. Third, split the recording in 2 places. First, after the speaker's introductory remarks, and second, at the beginning of the question and answer. Fourth, enlarge the picture in the picture before the first split and after the second. Fifth, leave the picture in picture of the speaker as a thumbnail during the main presentation. This ends what I call my Quick Start Seminar Capture tutorial. Now you need to view the tutorial videos in the Camtasia Learning Center available at the Help menu. In particular, you need to spend the 25 minutes needed to watch the 8 video clips in the Getting Started series. This is a small investment of time with a huge payoff in video literacy. Go to the UCTV Seminars website for more information on best practices, to download intellectual property release forms that speakers must sign, and of course to view lots of interesting seminars. I will end with this slide containing 10 ideas for the use of video in research, teaching, and outreach.
There it is. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Questions?
It's posted on UCTV, and Catherine or Kathleen said she was going to post it.
And can I add in on that, because you're going to find out, Jim and I did not talk about this, but you're going to find out we're back to back. Travantis is the name of the corporation that makes it. You can go online to Travantis, and you can download just about anything you want. You can actually get a free copy of this for 30 days and try it yourself.
No, but I think you were asking about the how-to right here. Is that right? The how-to record. That would be great to have on that site that we got. Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Well, I was just adding into the end there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. David?
Is it possible? So you had the student, is the student able to choose the size of the video? Like, can they make it into the whole screen, or?
Well, sure. I mean, when you pull up a flash video, I mean, you can have the whole screen or not. Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah, I didn't understand if it's when they.
These are not interactive videos. No. These are not interactive videos here. It's how to create a video to post, say, of what I call a didactic lecture, or a lecture of a person standing on a podium, for example.
Right, but you had both the PowerPoint presentation and the video. Are those like two separate windows that the student can have?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay. So you control the size of the little window for the video.
Yeah.
Jim, I think what he's asking is, I'm not sure if he understands or not, and let me just make sure. The PowerPoint presentation is made into a video. Okay, it's not two separate things. The PowerPoint's made into a video.
The screen capture, that's what I had, that one slide that came in. You have the screen capture, which is your PowerPoint, which is the C right here. In fact, this is being recorded. And then you have this right here, which is recording me. And so these two are superimposed. But this is my image will be a picture in a picture that you can actually make larger and so forth or smaller.
That's the question I'm wondering is you said you can make the picture larger or smaller. Can the student make the picture larger or smaller?
No. Once you render the movie, that's right. Once you render the movie, that's what you've decided the appropriate size to be. That's correct.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
Is the movie H264 that you can easily upload to YouTube? I heard the word Flash.
Yes, yes.
What's
all the
above? Yes, everything.
You can upload it. In fact, there's all different ways you can render it into these different, what do they call them, domains or formats or whatnot.
Codecs.
Yeah. Codecs, yeah.
Okay, great.
I'll mention another one that I've used. It's called iShowU HD that also has a webcam picture embedded within a PowerPoint.
The reason I got Camtasia was because Khan Academy uses it when you go to the frequently asked questions. And then secondly, UCTV recommends it. And so, anyway.
Yeah. Other questions? Profcast.
I don't know this, yeah. So what I tried to present was just an overview of the different models. The technology, I used Camtasia, but that was sort of not the concept I tried to present here.
Okay, let's move on to our final presentation. Roger McDonald is going to, thank you, Jim. Going to show us some of the techniques he's using in his online course development.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. That was fantastic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my course that I do right now. This is one of the screens from my course, Nutrition 111 AB, which is Introduction to Nutrition and Introduction to. I got to turn up my sound here first. Make sure that everybody gets it. Introduction to Nutrition and Metabolism, and it is a collection of 9 chapters. Think of it as a book, each having a section and each having and pages to the sections. And the student comes online and they hit, this is just one, this is showing an important concept in biology, which is active transport in the lumen, and we'll just I'll play it out. Okay, I'm not getting the sound.
I heard your machine when you turned the sound up.
Well, trust me, there's supposed to be sound here. And there's no sound. It's all the way up. Okay, well, let me try something else then. Let me just do it again, start all over again. And if it doesn't work, I'll try to show you how it does work. There's no sound here, trust me. Well, okay, so there's supposed to be sound, and the sound would be reading along with, let me go to the table of contents and start over again, see if I can't find find one that actually works. You know, I've never had one single problem in this course with anything.
The next 2 pages discuss the process of carbohydrate absorption. Included in this discussion are many. The active transport of glucose is an excellent example of how cells use concentration gradients
of electrolytes. There's a lot of things that I can do here. Now, I did all this programming, and I'm showing it for a reason.
Compounds through the
I can go over, I can slide over things, and I can give you a biological description of this. If this was connected to the internet, I actually have a link that will go to the exact NIH data bank that will show you where the gene lives for this one. Turn it up a little bit.
Membrane-bound enzyme alpha-glucosidase.
Okay, and you can see I can do that. But there's words here that I can define. It brings up a definition for each one. It'll go on, and this is the student doing this the whole way. Now we can stop this. Now I have basic, your basic
only monosaccharides
go-to backwards. I have things like the animal cell that it can go to. And you can look at the animal cell and you hit it and it returns and you go back. There's all kinds of things that can be done. I don't want to waste time looking at this, but this is what I do in my class, and this is 500 students all take this stuff. And they all learn how to what nutrition is through these packages. Now, the reason I showed you this is what I'm building for the biology of aging. Also, are these packages. Let me get to the slideshow. I have to use several different programs here. UC Security. Okay, and I'm sort of piggybacking off of Jim's. I had no idea that he was talking about this, but I've been a little crazy about this conference here also concerning these presentations, which by all means are wonderful, but the fact of the matter is not all of us have NSF grants, and not all of us get grants from different companies, and not all of us will have thousands and thousands of dollars to make these productions. So you're going to have to learn, if this is going to expand, you, the instructor, is going to have to learn how to do this, because you will never have the money to do this in a high production end. And these are the reasons why. First of all, the University of California's role as a research institution will always limit resources dedicated to teaching. This is specifically important to the life sciences. I want you to look over that board over there and notice that there's only one biology course that's on that entire thing, and that's mine. And what's the reason for that is I get absolutely no credit for teaching, and neither does any other biology instructor. And so if we get any credit at all, it has to be just a tack on to our research. So there's no incentive for us to do this kind of stuff. And so we have to accept that role that at the University of California, there will never be enough money, and nor should there be. We are a research institution, not a teaching institution. We're a research institution. The University of California, by legislative rule, is the research institution. That's what the state legislature in 1960 said. Okay, content development for online instruction as currently done at Davis is costly and time-consuming. It's incredibly time-consuming done the way it's done. And how do we do it? We separate everything off. So we have this video person over here, we have this graphic person over here, we have this other person over there, and somewhere in the middle they're all supposed to meet, and we don't have anybody that sits together and says, let's just put this all together. So it's a model that has to change. That model cannot be substantiated and sustained, and it's not the model that's used in industry. It is not the model that's used anywhere else. It is the one person doing one job, taking care of everything. Okay? This type of model also limits your flexibility. Once it's done by a video, it's done. You don't have any control, so you have to sit in a chair someplace and say, I do not like this, will you change it for me? Well, then they have to wait. Well, there are a lot of courses, especially in one like mine, which every single day something new about aging is coming out that I would like to, before I even release the next unit, say, I want to change this a little bit. And if I have to go all the way back to the ATS, what we call in ours, to do it, it would never happen. that is one of the main reasons as why you have to learn how to do some of these things. It has limited artistic control. For some of you, you will find out when you start doing this that your creative power comes out and how much you're really going to enjoy that. And if you do it through a production end of always running over someplace else to have somebody do something that you can do yourself in your office or your backyard, you will find how much you really enjoy doing this. The solution to the problem is very simple. Instead of having a bunch of people all doing different parts, you have a partnership between one instructional designer and yourself. And that the two of you work together to develop this stuff. And the cost will drop dramatically. Not only will it drop dramatically, but the speed at which you can put these things out will increase dramatically. So what's the process for that? I'm sorry, I've got one more thing to say that didn't show up for some reason. There are three basic, the most important thing to any online course that you will do. There are three things: content, content, and content. Nothing else matters. And and Jim said it for me, and I'll say it again, this idea that we have to be Hollywood and have these high-end productions is outrageous. There's no reason for that. It should be, as everybody in HR from around the nation says, good enough, and not something that the student doesn't care about our high-end. They want to know what the content is. So how are we going to do that? It's very simple. The process is, first of all, use stock graphics and photos. You don't have to go out to have somebody do it. You don't have to have anyone else take care of some picture, some graphic artist. I'll show you in a minute how cheap it is to grab yourself these kind of things. The use of PowerPoint with flash conversion add-ins such as Articulate and Snap. Okay? This is very simple to use, and I'll give a demonstration in a little bit. And then I am going on, the company that owns Camtasia, you saw from Jen, is a company by the name of Trovantis, and Trovantis owns Lectora, which I'm going to show you today. Stock graphics. This is from Motofolio. Now, I'm showing you biological ones, but you can get it for any single discipline that you want to talk about. And you can see all the ones I have here. We have some chromatin up there for you biologists. They even come with a complete description of a basic signaling pathway. This is called the G-coupled pathway, in which that's how we have gene transcriptions and translation. We have a DNA. I have 500 separate graphics for $150, okay, from just about anything. Now, the thing about these graphics that make them so I can't do it here because I'm in a slideshow, but every single one is separate, so I can just hit ungroup on my chromatin, and every single one of those things is separate. So I can just pull it out and put it anywhere I want. Stock photographs, okay? Here are some stem cells. Jim will recognize that individual. That's the world's oldest person when she was alive. Here are some honeybees, and here is a picture, because I do aging. This is a bristlecone pine, one of the oldest trees in the world. And these are all stock photographs. You can go out, this is from a company called Shutterstock. It has over 15.5 million royalty-free photos. Royalty fee means that you pay one time. There's royalty managed, which means you have to pay every time. But almost no one uses royalty managed except in high-end production. You all use Shutterstock, and there's probably 100 companies that do this. And you can get a 25-day subscription, and that's $25 a day, and for 1 month, $249. So think about it. If you had everything ready to go, if all you had to do was take the thumbnail, because you can get their thumbnails, it's in place where you want it, spend 3 days, and you got everything for $249, and nobody else but you had to take care of it. Okay, now we come to how these things are built. I'm going to have to leave this program and go off into PowerPoint, but these are all graphics I took from Motofolio. So, yeah, are they 3D? Are they exciting? Are they flashing out at you? No. Student didn't care. They just want to know what the concept is. That's what the student wants to know. They want to know what the concept is. So we're going to leave the program itself. Okay, and we're going to go to the next, if I can find it. And of course, it's gone. Okay, here we go. Come, I've lost my automation here. Ah, God darn it. What? No, I don't. That's not what I want to do. Let me open it up. Well, anyway, what you see here is I did everything in PowerPoint. Okay, I did everything in PowerPoint. I used animation in PowerPoint to do all this stuff. And then I'll show you the finished product of this in just a minute. But notice up here at the top, you have these ribbon, and this is Articulate. Okay, Articulate you can buy for $799, but Snap, made by Lectora, is now $99. And you can get it for a month for free. And it allows you to do any of the movies that you want to put into a Flash movie. For example, I'll show you how simple this is. Let's take, say I want to sync my animation. I just hit sync. I have a paranoid person for our IT person at work. Now, notice what happens here. You see that I have my notes, what I'm going to read on this side. I have my start sync on that side. I've already got a video that I put in to save us a little bit of time. And so I could just start sync.
Blood glucose levels must be maintained between a narrow range of 90 to 110 milligrams per deciliter. This narrow range is required because the brain uses only glucose from the blood for its
Now what I
energy
just
source.
did, I just hit my next animation. That animation came up, and I synced it to my voice.
10 milligrams per deciliter by the competitive actions of two pancreatic hormones, insulin
Now I'm going to do
and
the same thing
glucagon.
again.
After eating a meal, glucose is transported to the liver via the portal vein and either stored as glycogen or enters the general circulation. As the glucose concentration of the blood rises above 110 milligrams per deciliter, the endocrine cells of the pancreas secrete insulin. Insulin removes glucose from the blood by helping glucose to enter the muscle where it is stored as glycogen.
Okay, it's that simple. Okay, all I did was record, and you want to know what my recording studio was for that quality? A blanket over my head while I'm looking at the screen. Okay? Now I'm going to build a little better one, but you can sit in your office and have extremely high quality video that's good enough to show people. Now, what does this really look like when I'm all done, and if I was to save it? Notice here it is. It's been made into a Flash video now. I would have saved it. I would have put it online, made it into a Flash video, and
Blood glucose levels must be maintained between a narrow range of 90 to 110 milligrams per deciliter. This narrow range is required because the brain uses only glucose from the blood for its energy source.
This is what I just did.
Blood glucose levels are kept between 90 and 110 milligrams per deciliter by the competitive action of two pancreatic hormones, insulin and glucagon.
Okay, so you get the idea.
After eating a meal, glucose is transported to the liver via the portal vein and either stored as glycogen or
Well, I did it. I didn't even put a thing over my head. I just did it. I just did it to show you how fast it can be done. I just sat in front of my screen doing it. It was probably. I could have been, you know, instead of Sports Illustrated, I'm doing this. Okay. Okay. So now we come to the next part. Now Jim has already shown how you made videos with Camtasia. Now, you can take all of that and put it into into one format to where you can build an entire course using only one program and you doing all the work. I just came back from training in Lectora. I did 6 hours of fundamental training, and what I'm going to show you took me an hour to do, and I'd only had the fundamental training, okay? That's all I had. I've not worked with it before. I didn't do anything. Now, remember that what I showed you in the beginning, a slide like that, when I was using Authorware, I had to do all my own programming. Lectora is all drag and drop. Notice the stream over here. This stream over here is just showing you what you put in. Like, I'll hit this one, and there's my text box. So it's just a stream. It's just all you got to do is think about it and say, well, that's where I want it in the stream of line. I want it to show up then. So you can do all these things, and you can put everything that you see here, I did. Okay, I didn't have anybody else do it. I did everything myself, and this program comes with an entire library of things like buttons and things like that I guess you can't see me pointing at the screen. So now, I've done all that. One thing about it, what you do at the end is publish, and I do want to show you this, and notice what it publishes to. You can publish to just an executable file, you can publish to CD-ROM, you can publish to HTML, but for us, it also publishes to SCORM web base, and that is also ADA compliant. So once you get it going, you don't even have to think about it. You just hit SCORM compliant, and it'll send it out to your LMS. Okay, and so that's the power of these things now, because they integrate right into all the LMSs. So let's actually watch this, and I'll show you how. I'll let it run, and then you can ask questions here. Oop. I'll close the current tab, I guess. Where did it go? You gotta be kidding me. Okay, I'll start over again with adding this in. I can get to it quickly. This really doesn't, it's this, whatever we're doing here, because I can do this just about anywhere, and it hasn't had these problems. Okay, here we go.
At the end of this presentation, you will learn that
Rosemary.
working from a laptop computer, you can make content, add videos, and create quizzes.
I got to go to full screen so you can see everything. Okay, so notice, let me run it just real quickly again so we can start over again.
At the end of this presentation, you will learn that working from a laptop computer, you can make content, add videos, and create quizzes. Blood glucose levels must be maintained between a narrow range of 90 to 110 milligrams per deciliter.
And I've also got that down below.
This
now I can
narrow
start
range
to stop it.
is required because the brain
And I'll just go on
uses
to the
only
next, and this is what I want to
glucose.
show you. Okay, then you can go right into a quiz that is built right online. Come on. I'd hit true here. It says, nope, incorrect. Insulin stimulates glucose uptake. You have these processes down here, which is at portal vein. I click it out, it says that's correct. There's a lot more I could show you, but I know I'm running out of time, so. And notice I have basic navigation. I have all those things. We could do it all over again.
At the end of this presentation,
okay, thanks a lot.
you will learn that working from a
Thank you. Roger has probably already uploaded a little bit on Lectora to the website, so you can go there and check it.
And they're paying me. No.
So questions for Roger?
Was the blanket to reduce the ambient noise and also to try to keep the brightness of the room reduced?
No, the brightness in the room has nothing to do with it. When I was at training, they showed us all kinds of different ways of doing it. And I was sitting in my office, and I hadn't built my sound studio yet. So I just tried the blanket technique, and it works pretty good. But it's not as good as it can be. Oh, well, that's just something you have to control for by having a little bit of sound studio. You can do it in a little box. You can put a cardboard box with some egg cartons in it, and it works just fine.
Seems to me that there'd be some concept here of a, video production best practices that we put together. I mean, it's piecemeal. I'm independent of you, but we're sort of doing the same thing,
right,
and so forth. So that for the to get together with the IT people and really come up with best practices and
right,
how to really create these.
Those actually exist. Most of all training is done by HR programs in industry, and there is most instructional designers have those practices. They exist.
No, I mean, just like with the Camtasia, you mean tutorials or something like this? And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, of course, I understand all the
okay.
tutorials exist. I'm talking about something within this project.
Oh, within this project, yeah, right, exactly.
No, that's right. I mean, for this particular, in this context, and even some of the models that I threw up there, how would you put those together? You have one model here, but there's, that model doesn't fit everybody.
Oh, absolutely
or
not.
even all your
right,
instructions,
exactly.
I'm sure. So anyway, maybe it's something that we could talk about here.
Just a brief one. Superbly useful information, by the way. Thank you. Brief question. Does it flash HTML5? What's that final product? Does it play on iPads is what I'm wondering.
It'll play on just about anything you want to play on. It is a conversion to everything's Flash. And so you convert everything into a Flash.
Flash, it won't play on iPads, right?
Oh, well then, no.
so it's Flash, that's what's coming
yeah,
in?
but I can guarantee you Travanis is no idiot. I'm sure that they figured out how it's going to run on iPads.
Right.
We'll do two more, and then we'll get on to the next.
This is not really a question. It's just to follow on with James's point. We not only, I think, need the best practices on sort of video production and using things like Lectora or whatever, but things like Piazza that are allow you to ask questions and get them answered, or what are the tools that are out there that allow your students to collaborate on group projects more easily, or what are the tools that video is one thing, and I want to use it, but there's also a bunch of other things that I want to do, and I need to know what are the best open source tools or the easiest ones or the cheapest ones, all these factors.
I would caution against, when you're making content development, to use anything open source. And the reason I say that is because that open source may be gone someday. And you have to be kind of careful. You got to be real careful about what you're using, when you're using, and how it's changing. And I personally don't trust open source for content development. Now, if you want to talk about other types of ways, that's fine. But when I'm talking purely content development, I'm not real high on open source.
I would have the exact opposite fear.
Okay.
Right? Because
okay.
It's the...
well, we may be talking about two different things.
Right.
But
I mean, it's the private corporations that are most likely to go away, and then you can't get access to that material anymore. If it truly is an open source product, it will always be there. It might not be as functional as you want it to be, but someone could always take it up and make it do what you want it to do. Right? It's a matter of hiring a developer.
So two things. First, I just wanted to mention that you can do Creative Commons searches in Flickr. So if you're looking for stock photography, you can use Creative Commons as a licensing scheme. It's a really great one to use if you're trying to get content that you want to use and you don't mind attributing it to another person. So it's just another resource you might consider for some of the graphics needs that you might have. The second thing, in response to best practices and so forth, I think there's a really good site out for production techniques. It doesn't necessarily cover all the platforms for capture and distribution like Articulate or like Camtasia, these sorts of things. But if you go to makeinternettv.org, all one word, makeinternettv.org, you'll see there's a really great, it's all Creative Commons too, so we could actually repurpose it for this project and bring the content in and create a really good, at least a production tutorial, and then we can start to look at the capture platforms after that.
Okay. And if I didn't mention, every program you saw here is under $1,000, so it's well within budgets to be able to bring this stuff in.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how you handle accessibility issues, since that's a really critical issue for us to make sure that all of our content is accessible to users with disabilities.
Okay, I have not gotten that far within the program that I am using. However, at training, okay, they did show us that it is ADA compliant. Okay, and that's all I can tell you, is that it actually follows the guidelines, it's storm compliant, ADA compliant. I can't go on any farther than that. But I think that's an important consideration for this entire panel to think about. If we're going out and getting stuff off the internet, if we're going out and grabbing that stuff, who's going to make it ADA compliant? And that's a very costly, extremely costly proposition.
Okay, one last question.
Well, it's not specific to the tools you were showing, but I wanted to know about, we heard about Matterhorn, and I mean, how does that relate to these video publishing methods?
I'm sorry?
It's more for the Matterhorn people, because we heard about that before, and I mean, how do all these different publishing tools relate to Matterhorn? Is it going to be the video server that actually supports all these formats, or?
I don't even know what Matterhorn is.
Well, or whatever the final common learning environment, yeah.
I'm not a Matterhorn expert yet, but I'm working on it. So a lot of these things could be published out if they're pure video to the Matterhorn server. Matterhorn allows some other exciting things to publish multiple streams at the same time, so they end up being synchronized. So the kind of thing you were talking about, which is why we had those discussions of correlating comments that might be captured on the fly, or correlating a chat dialogue that might be going on as part of a synchronous session. That's going to be the add-on that Matterhorn's going to give us. So it could, yeah. So this could go either way. This could go, you know, be published as a standalone video. But some of the issues, there were some questions I think on Jim's thing about, you know, zooming into the video. If it was captured high quality, Matterhorn's player would solve that problem rather than it just being a simple media player. So, anything else you'd like to add to that? Oh yeah, the search question actually came up with Jim's too. That these things, you know, as we're capturing text that goes along with it, Matterhorn allows us to feed multiple things into the stream, and then they use that to index the videos and to make them searchable. So that a speaker could be just talking about something, you know, you get one of his technical terms, they can search on that technical term, and it'll jump you right to that point in the video.